Whew. That sounds good. Jesus. You know, there's one thing I do have to say. I love my manual E-Series BMWs, but getting into a car like this one, it is it is a fun and effortless car to drive. That is one thing that I absolutely love about all of these new G-Series BMWs. Well, it's probably not the best day to be driving a 740 wheel horsepower G82 M4, but I did want to get this car out a little bit for you guys to show you some of the driving experience, because man, it drives so good. These cars just make effortless power, dude. Making power like this in this car is just, it's so easy. It's a cheat code. It's too simple. And if making this type of power is your thing, then these are definitely the type of cars you want to check out, because oh my god. I mean, good luck getting traction really anywhere at this power level. You know, I am a big E-Series manual guy, but there is something that is just undeniable about these S58 cars. You know, femto unlock, basic bolt-ons, and you're making this kind of power. It's pretty crazy. And they just drive so good. Everything is so effortless. This car is so comfortable. So this is the Brooklyn Gray M4 competition. It's got the red interior. I mean, the spec is beautiful. Like really, really pretty, simple, clean spec. I think the only thing that I would change about this is probably try and go for the buckets. But I know how it is with some people, you know, they don't really like getting these cars with the buckets because the buckets are pretty aggressive. This car, you could drive it with 740 wheel horsepower across the country, no problem, no issues, no hiccups, super comfortable. I mean, it's an all-in-one package with this type of car. But you know, if you like the sportier side of things, the buckets, that's gonna be the way to go. Oh my god! So this one just came into the shop, CES Motorsport. As you guys know, I'm a partner over there. This was one of the many femto unlock cars that we had this month. And after the unlock, we did our basic bolt-on package. We did a nice Vorsteiner front grille. We did the RK front mount intakes on this car, and it is tuned on boot mode by F80 Paul. It's got a custom E-blend tune. Like I said, it's making around 740 wheel horsepower. I mean, dude, you guys got to remember, I'm driving my E92 M3 every day, or my F82 M4, but the M3, that's like 3 to 5 business days that I can get up to 60 miles an hour. With a car like this, it's just instant. That is the undeniable thing about these S58s, and it's the thing that keeps me coming back. The only reason that I really haven't gone and bought one of these yet is just because I'm putting all of my money into my other projects, and I'm sort of in this phase of life where I'm buying a lot of these older cars, kind of bringing them back to life and just really diving into deep projects. Whereas something, if I bought a car like this, I mean, I would daily drive it. Like, this is literally a perfect daily driver. You could not ask for much more. You're getting over 700 wheel horsepower, and you have plenty of room in it. It's super comfortable to drive. These cars are insane. Like, they literally do it all, and it's just so easy to do it. But also, you know, they're not cheap. Like, these cars are $70K-ish, I believe. M4 competition, I think they're around $70,000. I mean, maybe you could get lucky and find one in the 60s, but they are starting to come down in price a little bit, which is nice to see. But yeah, it doesn't take much, man. Femto unlock, basic bolt-ons, E-blend tune, and you're making over 700 wheel horsepower. It's just, it's crazy. Guys, I have been in this car game for over 20 years. And when I first started building up cars, I mean, they were like these little Hondas that you were lucky if you could get 200 some horsepower out of them. Today, we're talking about like an email tune and some metal pipes, and we're getting 700 wheel. Like, what? Growing up 20 years ago versus a lot of, you know, younger kids who are 16, 17, and 18 who are growing up now, the amount of power that we had to get used to versus the amount of power that they have to get used to is drastically different. I think that's also why we see a lot of these cars, even the F8X and the G8X platform, we're seeing a lot of them in Copart, and I think that's why. I have a ton of respect for cars like this that have a lot of horsepower, and I make sure that I treat them with respect every time that I drive them, because I know what that much horsepower can do to a person, and I think it's just a little bit different when you're a lot younger and you immediately have that kind of horsepower at your disposal. I think you guys get what I'm saying here. But these are incredible cars, man. I mean, you really cannot go wrong with the G8X platform. My only gripe about these cars is I just don't love the way that they sound. Like, that's just a personal opinion. Now, the single turbos obviously sound a little bit better, which is, you know, across the board, even with the S55s and S58s, anytime you single turbo it, it is gonna sound a little bit better. But when it comes to tone, honestly, I would take an N54, a B58, or an S65, obviously, over the tone of the S58. Again, that's just a personal opinion. Aesthetically, love the way that these cars look. I mean, it was definitely one from the beginning that I wasn't against. I was one of the few people with the G8X platform that, you know, I didn't mind it. I thought it looked pretty cool. And after people started really doing a lot to these cars, I thought they looked a lot better. The G87, however, took a little bit of time for me to appreciate. However, I will say I did come around after seeing enough of them modified the way that I wanted to see them modified. Yeah, I totally fell in love with that chassis. I think if I were to get into an S58 though, you guys, I gotta be completely honest, I'm leaning towards the M2. And if I do get the G87 M2, I'm making that shit my daily driver. These cars can just do it all, you know? The only reason that I would really go for the M2 over the M4 or the M3 is just because I like smaller cars. I mean, look at all the cars I have now. All my cars are a little bit smaller in size, and I just prefer that. And being the manual guy that I am, I would buy the G87 or any S58 for that matter in the automatic, because it's so good. The automatic is just next level, man. And these cars, it's too good. It's too good to go for a manual. And you're also talking about much heavier cars, which in my opinion just doesn't really pair well with the manual transmission. The first G80 I ever drove was a manual. I was just so let down by it. So for me personally, I'm going for the auto. It's just too competent, it's too good, it's too fast. And yeah, when it comes to transmission, I think that's the way to go. But styling wise, dude, these cars are just sick. Like, these cars look so freaking good, man. Brooklyn Gray, in my opinion, is also an awesome color. Probably not the color that I would choose personally, because I feel like this gray got really popular a few years ago and now everybody has it. You know what I'm talking about. Like, all of these different car manufacturers are offering this like identical gray. I really like these cars in red, black, and white. And some of the silvers that they offer are really nice too. But those are the colors that I think this car stands out the most in. Again, these are all subjective opinions here, but yeah, I just think you can't go wrong with this car, man. It looks so aggressive. It looks so good. Starting to get a little bit of rain here, so we can't go too crazy, but man, these cars are too fun. It's just so easy to make this kind of power. Handle's super good too. I had the pleasure of driving one of these on track at BMW in Spartanburg, and dude, They are insane on track. So good. And it was just a stock G82 that I drove on track. It's just unreal, like handled incredibly well. There's really not much to fault these cars for. I mean, they are just super capable right out of the box. You know, you're going to be obviously paying a little bit more. They are expensive M model cars, but if you got the bread, you really cannot beat these cars. I mean, you get all of the technology, you get all of the power, you get the styling, you get pretty much everything that you would want out of an M car without sacrificing ride quality or comfort. I mean, these cars are just, I don't know, man. I just keep saying it over and over again, but they're just super capable. I think the wave of the G8Xs is definitely obvious. You know, I mean, you go to any car show, there's going to be a G80 there. I don't think there is a single car show that I've gone to in Charlotte that hasn't had one of the G8X cars there. I mean, they're everywhere, dude. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, BMW has now produced more G8X M model cars than any other previous M model version, which is pretty insane. It also goes to show you how popular these cars really are and how many people are actually buying them. It's also pretty crazy to me how many young people are buying these cars. I mean, these are not cheap cars. I think like minimum you're looking at high 60s if you're lucky. To be able to get into one of these cars at that young of an age, I mean, that's insane. When I was that age, I was definitely not making that kind of money. I mean, I had like a very, very cheap Honda Civic for my first car. It took me a long time to get into cars that were worth this kind of money. But these are different times, my friends. People are just getting rich off crypto. People got that internet money. It's just different now. Kids can make a ton of money with the internet. Starting to get the rain now, so we got to be careful. But man, this thing handles so good. It is on Michelin Pilot 4S's, which are just incredible tires. Really can't go wrong with Michelins. These are awesome, awesome tires. Whoop, a little squirrely. Yeah, I think that this is like the perfect daily driver. Like any of these G8X cars, man, they are just so good for daily driving. I also want to say that these digital dashes look incredible. I am a huge fan of the analog instrument clusters in the E-Series BMWs. One of the modifications that I just cannot stand is when people put digital clusters into older cars. I think it just looks really silly in like any of the E-Series model cars. You know how they make those digital clusters for the E-Series cars? I think they look stupid. That's just my opinion. But in these cars and the newer cars, this suits this car really well, and it's really nice. Like, I love the way that this looks. You got your navigation in the center. It's a super clean, like, digital display, big tack on the side. It's definitely something you have to get used to. Like, if you're not used to it, it's a little bit strange at first. The G87 that I drove had the bigger screen. A lot of people were against that also. I kind of like it. Again, I wouldn't like it in any of my older cars because I feel like that's just for a different type of experience, and trying to make digital things happen in old cars is just kind of silly, in my opinion. But in these cars, I think they're really well suited. Like, I think it fits this interior super well. Looks really good. It's very functional. Like, you got all of the data that you could ever need. It's a good setup. Just spin. Just spin. I mean, casual 700 wheel. The nice part about this tune on this car, you guys, is it's a flex tune. So the owner can go ahead and put E85 in it. He can put 93 in it. Really whatever he wants up to a certain mix level, and the tune is just going to adjust for him. That is the beautiful thing about having a flex system like this, which just also makes this an easier daily drivable car. Like, you don't have to worry about always having the proper mix of fuel in the car. When I first started blending fuels for a lot of my BMWs, I had to make sure that I either had, you know, E30, E40, E50 in the car. Well, with this, you don't have to worry about that. You can just go ahead and put as much in as you want, and it's going to adjust for you accordingly, which just makes the whole tuning and like enjoying that type of power in this car so easy. And I think that's really what a lot of these like newer tuning products and flex fuel systems are so good for, is just making the experience of owning the car and and having those add-ons effortless, you know, so you really don't have to worry about it. You can just enjoy your car. And if you're out running around with your boys on the weekend and you're running like full E85 or E50 or E40, you know, it's Monday, you got to go back to work, you need more gas. You don't want to sit there like worrying about, oh shoot, I got to throw back on my 93 map and like run down all my E85 before I can flash it in. You can just throw in your 93 and it's going to adjust for you. And rather than going with like the dedicated maps, I'm seeing more and more people go for the flex system because it just makes so much sense. But yeah, overall, absolutely loving this car, man. I've been driving it for a day now. I think I'm going to hold on to it for one more day, do a little bit more content, sort of get used to the platform a little bit more. But there is no question the customer is going to absolutely love this car. It is set up to perfection, in my opinion.